Today we're going to learn how to multiply and divide positive and negative numbers. For this lesson, you're not to use calculators. When you take this part of the FSA, you won't be allowed to use calculators. So try your best to do everything by hand. And in the classroom, you'll also have to do it by hand. All right, so what are we trying to learn how to do? We're trying to learn how to multiply and divide positive and negative numbers. This includes integers, rational numbers like fractions and decimals. These same rules apply. So please make sure you copy down everything that we have in our notes. I'll be checking your notebooks in class. Okay, so the basic rules for multiplying and dividing positive and negative numbers. I want you to copy in this box here onto your note pages. Make sure you guys put your topic and today's date at the top of your page. And in this box here, I've got 3 sets of parentheses that indicate multiplication. But if you look here, these rules apply both to positive and negative numbers for multiplication and division only. So these rules that you're going to write down here are only going to apply when you're doing multiplication and division for positive and negative numbers. We will not use these for addition and subtraction. We'll learn those in a separate video. Okay. Get out of the way. Okay, so the basic rules, here we go. We're going to have 3 different situations, and we're going to refer back to this box to practice the problems. If you're multiplying and dividing 2 numbers, and both of those numbers are positive, your answer will be a positive number as well. If you're multiplying and dividing 2 numbers, and they are both negative, your answer will also be positive. Okay? So if both of the numbers that you're multiplying or dividing are positive numbers, your answer is going to be positive. If both of the numbers that you're multiplying or dividing are negative numbers, your answer is also going to be positive. Okay? Where this changes is where one of the numbers is positive and the other number is negative. And it doesn't matter the order. The first one could be the negative number. The second one is the positive. It doesn't matter the order. If one of the numbers are negative and the other number is positive, your answer will always be negative. Okay. So we're going to use this to practice and apply it to some problems. We're going to start with multiplication and then we'll move on to division. Okay. At any time that you need to pause the video and copy down these notes. All right, so here we go. How do we apply this when we're doing some multiplication problems? First of all, I want to show you how we indicate multiplication now that we're moving into algebra. We use parentheses. We're no longer using the dot or the X to indicate multiplication. You're going to see parentheses used. Most of the time, they'll look like example number 1, where you have the first number outside of parentheses, but it's touching against or right up against the parentheses of the second number. Notice that there's no plus or minus in between. There's just the 13 and then the parentheses for the negative 3. That's multiplication. Sometimes you'll see them both inside of parentheses with nothing in between. It's parenthesis against parentheses. That's multiplication as well. Okay? So here in example number 1, we're multiplying a positive 13 times a negative 3. Okay? Now to make it easier to refer to my box up top, I'm going to put letters next to it. You do not have to do this. I'm going to call the first situation A, the second situation B, and C, just to make it easy reference for this video. So in example number 1, a positive number for number 13 is being multiplied with a negative number. Is that going to be a situation like the example for A, where they're both positive, B, where they're both negative, or C, where one is positive and one is negative? If you said C, you were correct. The 13 is positive. The negative 3 is negative. So my answer is going to be a negative. And now I just multiply 13 times 3, and that's going to give me 39. Okay. So what I like to do first is decide if the answer is going to be positive or negative using the signs, and then just multiply the two numbers. For number 2, I'm going to look at the situation. I have one positive number being multiplied by another positive number. That's situation B. One negative number being multiplied by a negative number. Situation B. -5 being multiplied by -8 is going to give me a positive. So my answer will be positive, and just multiply 5 times 8. It's going to give you a positive 40. Now, in number 3, we have a different situation because we're multiplying by 0. Anything multiplied by 0 is going to give you an answer of 0, and 0 does not carry a positive or negative number. So I'd like for you to pause the video and try problems number 4, 5, and 6. Okay, now that you've paused and tried 4, 5, and 6, we're going to do them together. Okay, so we're going to take a look at number 4 here. We have a -10 multiplied by a -2. Both of the numbers are negative. That's a situation like scenario A, where scenario B, where both of the numbers are negative. So both of the numbers are negative. My answer is going to be a positive, and I just multiply 10 times 2. That'll give me a positive 20. Number 5, 0 times -22. It's like the example we did on number 3. We're multiplying by 0, so my answer is going to be 0, and there will be no sign applied to 0. Number 6 is a situation like A, where both of the numbers are positive numbers. Positive 8 being multiplied times a positive 4 is going to give me a positive answer, and 8 times 4 is 32. So be sure to write down any questions you may have, and we can go over them in class. We're also going to have to apply these same rules for multiplication and division when using word problems. So let's take a look at an example of that. We're going to look at number 13 here. It says Flora made 7 withdrawals of $75 each from her bank account. What was the overall change in her account? When you're doing these word problems, you're going to look for words that indicate whether a number is positive or negative. When you set up the calculation, when you set up the problem, make sure you're putting the negative with the correct word. When we do these examples on our programming class called My HRW, you are going to need to indicate which of the numbers is the positive or the negative. So I see here in this example that Flora made 7 withdrawals, and they were of $75 each time. So what's going down is her bank account by $75. Making a withdrawal, going into the bank or going to the ATM, is an action that you take. That's not necessarily going to be a negative. So I'm going to set up my problem, and I'm going to set it up as a positive 7 with a negative 75. Being multiplied by a negative 75. Okay, so the withdrawal of $75 is my negative. The 7 times she went to her bank account, I made the positive. Okay, and now I just multiply 7 times 75 times a negative 75 is going to give me a negative. One is positive, one is negative. It's going to give me a negative 525. Okay. So the overall change in the bank account was that it went down. It was a negative of $525. Okay. Take a look at numbers 14 and number 15. pause it, try them on your own, and we will go over both of these in class. Now we're going to move on to division. At this point, you have run out of space on the first page in your notebook. That's fine. Move on to the next page, title it and date it as well. You can just put multiplying and dividing positive and negative numbers continued and put the same date. Okay? So now we're going to take a look at division examples. And let me zoom in here. We still use this same box, even though in the example I taught you guys that multiplication is parentheses. I want you to understand that we use these same rules and we apply them to division as well. Okay, so if you have two numbers that are positive and we're dividing them, your answer will be positive. Two negative numbers being divided, your answer will be positive. If one is positive, one is negative in division, your answer will be negative. Now the notation for division changes when we start using algebra. So in the past, you would have set this problem up something like this. It would have probably shown 24 being divided by -3. But we use fractions to indicate division now. Okay, so instead of writing it like this, you're going to more often see it written as a fraction, but that's what we're doing. We're taking positive 24, dividing it by a -3. So let's take a look at what scenario we have going on here. So my first number is positive, the second number is negative. That's going to be a scenario like situation C, where one of the numbers is positive, the other is negative. Your answer is going to be a negative. Back. It's going to be a negative, and now just divide 24 divided by 3 would give you an 8. Okay. For example number 2, we have -6 divided by a -2. So if I come over here, I'm looking for the situation that has two negative numbers. That's B, negative, multiplied or divided by a negative. It's going to give me a positive answer. So 6 divided by 2 is going to equal 3, and that's going to be a positive 3. Okay. Now, on number 3, I wanted to take this moment to talk a little bit about division with zeros. Okay. This situation we're looking at here is read 0 divided by 9, which is going to equal 0. If you have the 0 on the bottom in the where the denominator is, 0 as a denominator is undefined. So let's move over here where I made a special note about that. Okay, so when we have 0 in the numerator, the answer is going to be equal to 0. This is 0 being divided by some number is going to give you 0. Okay. However, when you have 0 in the denominator, this is undefined. If you take any number and put it in the calculator and divide it by 0, you're going to get the term that says error. Okay? That's because division by 0 is undefined, something that cannot be done. So please make sure when you're setting up your word problems or you're setting up a problem to do your division that your 0 is in the numerator, not in the denominator. Okay? If it is in the denominator, the answer would be undefined. So here we have 0 divided by 9, and that's going to equal 0. Okay, we've got 3 problems here, numbers 4, 5, and 6, for you to pause and try on your own. Remember to refer to your chart. Okay, now that you've paused them and tried them on your own, I'll do them with you. So in number 4, we have another division with 0. 0 divided by -6 was going to just equal 0, and 0 doesn't carry positive or negative numbers. Okay. 38 positive 38 divided by a negative 19. Let's take a look here. So we have a positive number that's being divided by a negative number. That looks like scenario C to me. So I'm going to say that it is going to be a negative. And then I divide 38 divided by 19, and you should get a 2. And number 6, you have a negative number being divided by a negative number. Both of them are negative. So the answer will be a positive, and 13 divided by 1 is 13. If you have any questions, please make sure you write them down in your notebook. You can send them to me on our class Remind, and we can go over them in class. Next, we're going to look at the same word problems, but now for division. We're going to do number 15 together and 16 and 17. I'd like you to try on your own, and we'll go over those in class. So for number 15, Clark made 4 of his truck payments late and was fined 4 late fees. The total change to his savings from late fees was minus $40 or a negative $40. How much was one late fee? So we're trying to figure out how much one late fee was out of all of them. So we're going to take a look at the information that's given to us. So he made 4 truck payments late, and he was fined for the 4 late fees. The total amount that they fined him was a minus $40. So we're going to take the negative $40 and we're going to divide that by the 4. Okay, so where you normally would have written it like this, I'm going to write it as negative 40 divided by 4, a positive. Okay, because 4 was the payment, so that should be a positive number. And now I have a division with a negative divided by a positive, so my answer is going to be negative. 40 divided by 4 is going to be 10. Okay, but I have to make sure that I'm answering the question that was asked. The question that was asked was how much was one late fee? One late fee was $10. They deducted $10 for each late fee, but one late fee is $10. So my answer here is actually going to be $10. Okay. Be sure to show me your work on the word problems. In your notebook, you do not need to copy the entire word problem. Please just title it with word problem examples, put the number, and show me your full calculations for number 14, 15 in multiplication, 16 and 17 in division.